Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be talking about the Halloween rare egg machine that has come to North America. So this is a spooky rare egg machine, not only because it is festively themed, but because it is actually home to terrifyingly bad rolling rates, many bottom rarity cards that have virtually no value, and it's just incredibly old, which in turn means they were basically neglected and forgotten. As a result, if you are thinking about rolling this event, I strongly encourage you not to, because there is almost no value in rolling. If you truly are in love with any of the cards in this event, and they're an 8 or a 9-star card, you can monster exchange for them. That's a much better place to spend your resources, as opposed to throwing fruitlessly at it and getting a ton of miseries and just feeling miserable about yourself. But either way, I still want to talk about why the Halloween rare machine is lackluster, but I'll still go over each of the individual cards to give you a better idea and understanding of what you can expect here. So in terms of the pros, it's easy to skip. It's Halloween themed. There's not that much else going on in terms of quality stuff as a whole. The cons are, well, 75% or about 75% of the rolls will be the bottom rarity. And for the most part, you don't want any of the bottom rarity cards. Sometimes in events, a bottom rarity card can be useful and helpful and therefore more justifiable to roll. Halloween is not the case. You are going to be sad as a whole 3 out of the 4 times. Not good rolling rates. And in fact, it's one of the less balanced tier lists that I've created for an event. It's like an actual tree almost with no trunk at the bottom. So like I said, many of the cards at the C and D level I feel will have very situational or limited value. They could be quickly replaced by something else that you roll in the future that fulfills a similar role, mostly because they have terribly low weighted stats. They may not even have 9 awakenings, and to get them to have 900 weighted stats, which is terrible, needs level 110. Just so much effort and investment required for little payout and return. Some of them have killers, so they might have some situational value, but at the same time, their attack stats are low that it's going to hinder their usage as a whole. So let's just jump right into the cards. So the first card is Halloween Tsuo, which is a brand new 9-star card. And we think with a 9-star seasonal card, they should be truly magical and special because they have a 1% chance of being rolled. That is not the case. Tsuo, I feel, is underwhelming. And this can be a polarizing statement to make because some players will think that they are great. But if I look at them in the grand scheme of things, I feel like they are underperforming because Gillian is kind of the enabler to make Tsuo do well. Without Gillian, Tsuo would not function as well. And at the same time, if you have Gillian, I would be much more inclined to use Gillian as a leader as opposed to Tsuo Gillian. Double Gillian just does things better. So the main drawbacks for Tsuo is that they have no awakenings in their base form. It doesn't exist. They don't have any tanky durability aspect to their leader skill, so you have to transform right away. And it's a 20 turn cooldown, which is higher than normal. Most transforming things are the 18 or so. Most of them are. The key heroes are 30, which is an exception, but the key heroes at least have a viable leader skill in their pre-transformed state, and they give skill boosts at the same time. Tsuo does not, and that is definitely a drawback. Because if you think about it, if you're going to replace a Gillian as a leader with a Tsuo, you just lost 3 skill boosts. That's quite a big difference, and it might be quite difficult to hit that 20 because without transforming Tsuo, you're not going to have much durability at all. Once transformed, Tsuo has team health, which is helpful. He has solid personal damage. He's got double 7 combo, double VDP. Reliable. It's kind of like Grandis. I'm going to say he looks like Grandis from an awakening point of view. Quite similar, relatively speaking. Their active skill is also tremendously unique, and at this point in time, I feel like it is underwhelming, but maybe it is placing ourselves in such a way that it's going to counter future mechanics that are unrevealed at this point in time. Maybe it will turn out to be great, maybe it will have no value whatsoever. It's that uncertainty that's interesting at this point in time, and because JP got this event almost at the same time as we did, we don't have that kind of crystal ball aspect to look ahead 2 months. But this active skill will disable all other active skills for 2 turns. So if you use them as the final active on your turn, it's really only 1 turn of yourself locking out of being able to use active skills. Don't use them first and expect to use something else afterwards. So you want to use all your other actives first, use him, and then your subsequent turn you can't use an active skill. And that is a big problem because if we look at their leader skill, they have damage reduction when matching fire and heal orbs, and only when they match fire and heal orbs. If they don't match fire and heal orbs, you have 1 times health, you are probably going to die to most things. And that's why I think this active skill is so problematic. If it gave you a heart and a fire combo magically on your second turn as part of the active skill, then this could definitely work. It could be much more manageable, much more viable, because you're not basically condemning yourself to RNGesus whether or not you have a board that has fire and heart orbs on your subsequent turn. That's my biggest issue. And also at the same time, the active skill, it gives you one turn of 75% damage reduction, one turn of 3.5 times attack. So the damage reduction will definitely save you on the turn you use it on. 75% damage reduction is almost always going to be enough to keep you alive. That's basically giving you 4 times more durability. It's a great solution. But if it lasted 2 turns, then you could survive the subsequent turn when you can't use active skills. Like, there are a couple of things that I feel like it could have been done to give it a much more manageable usage on its second turn. Because the thing is, with a transforming card, we want these high value active skills, and in the case of Tsuo, I don't feel like the active skill is bringing enough value on this cooldown either. Like, if you have Gillian friend, or you want to use Gillian as a sub instead of Gillian as a leader, you can't use their beautiful tricolored board. That is a problem as a whole. But if we look at their leader skill, they have large attack multiplier at 324 times when matching fire and heal. So it isn't easy to activate leader skill condition, but the problem is you have no durability if you don't have fire and heal. So without that constant flow, you are running a massive risk. At the same time, their sub pool is open if you are intent on using them as a leader. They can use any fire sub as any fire card as a sub. Like, that does give certain degree of flexibility, not type restrictions. And the main issue, like I said, is like they have that lack of consistency about firing heart orbs. If you are intent of using them as a sub instead, which definitely can work, the biggest problem is I feel like they are basically a Grandis, because Grandis has basically a very similar awakening distribution in terms of offensive prowess, but Grandis has a much stronger active skill upon transforming. Tsuo, like I said, I don't like this active skill right now at this point in time, unless in the future it counters something magical. Grandis' active skill gives you a row of fire orbs, so there's your damage output. It gives you bonus attack multiplier as well, and it gives you bonus combo count on a 3-turn cooldown, and it does not lock you out of your future active skills. So as a whole, I feel like Tsuo is like almost a bit dead on arrival, so to speak. Like, he's being surpassed by other options already available. And the thing is, if you had Gillian, I would not want to use Tsuo. Like, I have a Gillian, and I feel like if I rolled Tsuo, I don't think I would use them as a sub, because I'm not going to take Grandis out, I'm not going to take Paulone, I'm not going to take Amaterasu out because I need to heal, and if I want to use Tsuo as a leader, well, I'm just kind of hindering my own possibilities, I feel, because double Gillian is so safe and consistent because the damage reduction always happens. Yes, the damage reduction is higher through Halloween Tsuo, but your health multiplier is also lower, which makes Gillian's window for opportunity also a little weaker. It's just, I feel, not as strong as where I want them to be. For their weapon assist, they provide you with 2 blind, 2 jammer, and 2 poison. So this is a first of its kind. We have 40% resist against all those metrics in a single weapon assist. So this is quite unique, and obviously the value of this weapon assist comes to the front when you actually have other ways to efficiently hit 100% resist. Like, if you are using super awakening or super resist, it's not going to be as efficient because you're kind of wasting some of these awakening slots, so to speak. But if you're using things like Fatalis' weapon or Aerith's weapon, like things with like multiple resists already, this can be an efficient way to hit your requirement needs. And the active skill that comes with this weapon is interesting. It disables your active skills for 2 turns. So remember, like, you use this as your final active skill, and then it's only the subsequent turn that is problematic. But if you're using this on a team that has high durability and can tank hits without an active skill, then the risk becomes much lower. But after imposing this penalty on yourself, you get 3 turns of being able to bypass damage and attribute absorption effects. So it's basically 3 turns of this. With one of those turns, you don't have active skills. So the first turn, you have all your actives before, then you use this, you can do magical damage. Second turn, you're basically relying on what the given board is. Maybe it's enough to kill, maybe it's not. Then the third turn, you can use active skills again. So you have quite a large window to actually take advantage of this active skill. So I do like that aspect as well, but at the same time, we do have other ways to address this. Maybe I'm undervaluing this weapon assist, but at the same time, I feel like the resists are less amazing when you have super resist. Like, there are a couple things that are keeping it back from being truly magical, in my opinion. Like, there's a lot of restrictions you kind of have to bounce around, and at the same time, spawns like, say, in Shura Realm, you might need that second turn of active skills used because it's going to take multiple turns to chunk down the Manoas anyways, and if that's the case, you can't use an active skill in the second turn, you might perish. You're giving yourself a risk because you're just relying on the next board, and I do not like that level of uncertainty, especially if you get to the very end of a hard dungeon, and it's uncertain what your board is going to look like. It could be problematic. Maybe you didn't get hard orbs, you can't heal, you might get killed. It's just something I it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth, so to speak. Next is Halloween Madu, and Halloween Madu has definitely been upgraded. So as a whole, Halloween Madu is a tremendously powerful offensive solution because she has an incredibly high attack stat with triple VDP, double TPA, and option of Devil, God, or Physical Killer. So tremendous damage output from your Halloween Madu. But the fun doesn't stop there. She's also a powerful leader and can function as a sub even if you need effective skill boost because she has 4 skill boosts through her awakenings and her active skill gives you a 3-turn delay. So that's 7 effective skill boosts. Now, this is obviously overlapping quite strongly with Alatu, and Alatu does give super poison and, in my opinion, a better delay because Alatu gives you a board change with the delay. So the board change is always helpful. Plus 3 combos, like, it's cool, but it's not really going to solve your needs. Like, if you needed to make a VDP, well, it's not generating orbs. Alatu gives you at least the chance to generate orbs. So I feel like there's a bit of discrepancy there. So I feel like Madu's active skill will decline in value as the dungeon goes on, like a little less value, so to speak. But at the same time, if you are playing through Shura Realm, there are many spawns later on in the dungeon that can be delayed. Manoa, before she gets, like the first form of Manoa can be delayed, which gives you a certain degree of peace of mind. So that could be meaningful in that regards. But I want to take a look at her leader skill because as a leader, she is incredibly durable. You get, with dual leaders, 4 times health and 43.75% damage reduction when you match 5 or more connected orbs. Any 5 connected orbs, it could be jammers, could be bombs, could be poisons, could be hearts, it does not matter. It could be attributes you don't even have on your team. You will still get access to this massive amount of damage reduction while having a huge health pool. It's going to be very difficult to actually kill Halloween Madu teams. Now, at the same time, you do have 1 times RCV, and both your Madus would have no RCV, so you would have to use a healing solutions such as Air, but at the same time, Air is not a bad card to run. She gives you Awoken Bind Clearing on a fast cooldown, so you can still definitely make it work. So the main appeals of this leader skill is being durable with a high attack multiplier. You don't have auto follow-up attack and you don't have bonus combo counts, so that is obviously a bit of a drawback, but at least at this point in time for Shura Realm, those 2 metrics aren't as important, mostly because we don't have outrageously high combo shields and very few resolve spawns. So as a whole, I think she's quite a solid leader. Not as magical as, like, say, the key heroes, of course, but still powerful nevertheless, and has merits as a sub as well if you need effective skill boosts. For her weapon assist, I'm not a big fan of it. I would not make the weapon assist if I only had a single copy of Halloween Madu. And the reason being is because it provides a TPA, an L, and 2 orb enhances. Now, a TPA and an L, like, they're situationally helpful. I do like having an L somewhere on my team. I think it's a helpful awakening to have. But a TPA and an L just has no synergy. Both of those need 4 and 5 orbs to actually function, so you can't really get both of them at the same time. Like, it's just a little problematic. And because of that, the orb enhances are also a bit lower. If we had, say, just an L and more orb enhances, this would be a much better weapon assist. Or possibly even, like, maybe, like, TPA with, like, more orb enhances, I'd say. Like, just pick one thing to be good at. Don't try and do a bit of everything. Like, that's what makes cards less valuable, in my opinion. If they try and do a bit of everything. Being specialized in one aspect tends to be the most efficient approach overall. Now we go to the 8-star cards. So for the 8-star cards, Halloween Fernandi features actually incredibly high personal damage due to 777 combo and 3 attack well above 80% awakenings, which results in 27 times personal damage against all spawns with the ability to take any killer latent due to her balanced typing. So this is great, but the problem is there's no VDP to be found on her anywhere, which means that it's going to be more difficult to bring her into, like, arena-style content where void spawns are common because all of her offensive awakenings go to waste. They won't have any value. So because of that, it makes me think that Halloween Fernandi will succeed more in predictable content that doesn't have voids, which I feel like might end up being Training Arena 2. Because with Training Arena 2, all they have is high health and high defense and obviously high attack values when they hit you. So with that in mind, you could possibly avoid getting hit, so you always stay at full health, you trigger her large amounts of personal damage, and you can have a jolly good time. And in fact, her leader skill might even help with that because it needs a heart cross, which is a frustrating thing to do, but you have 784 times attack multiplier with, well, damage reduction. You're probably going to die in one hit anyways because you don't have any health multiplier, at least in Training Arena 2. Maybe you survive, but the point is, you have the capacity to deal large amounts of damage, but the problem is you have to make a heart cross with 7 combos, and there's no bonus combo involved in this leader skill. If this leader skill gave you bonus combos, it's definitely much more manageable and workable, but I feel like it's going to be a little bit more effort overall. So at this point in time, I feel like I'm not quite sure how I would truly use Halloween Verdandi. If I'm not mistaken, I have a Halloween Verdandi, but I've really not used her for the above reasons. I can't justify her in like arena style content because of the lack of a void. I'm not going to use her as a leader for training arena too because I have more efficient things. Like attack while below 50% leaders tend to be the best thing because they're the most mindless. So she's kind of flip-flopping in an awkward place for someone with a more deep monster box. But for someone without as deep of a monster box, she could potentially fulfill that niche or role for yourself. But if she had gained a VDP, she would have been so much more usable because she could find use on a variety of different teams for arena style content. For Halloween Cotton, she is a tremendously offensive card. Her attack stat is not as high as Halloween Madu. It's going to be hard to match that, but a respectable attack stat nevertheless. 777 combo, double TPA with a VDP, all before Super Waking. So you could take Tape Resist or you could take another TPA to improve her damage output. So she does hit hard, but at the same time, she offers little utility. One could argue that the Tape Resist is utility, but at the same time, Tape Resist is one of the less pursued awakenings. I feel like if I had to pick a couple of awakenings to bring into a dungeon, Blind, Cloud, and Poison tend to be the most universally helpful ones. The other ones will come up sometimes, but I think as a blanket statement, Blind, Cloud, and Poison tend to be the most notable ones and commonly seen ones. So Halloween Cotton's not addressing any mechanics, she's just damage. And her damage is nice, but at the same time, there are so many other cards out there that can do tremendous amounts of damage. Like being a damage dealer, you need to do something to really stand apart. And I don't feel like Halloween Cotton is truly achieving that at this point in time. Like she is still a strong card, but not as game-breaking as she was when she first was released. Her active still gives a tricolor board of light, dark, and hard orbs with +1 combo, and as a leader, she does have a strong attack multiplier and 2 sources of damage reduction. But the problem is, if you're missing one source of that damage reduction, so you don't have light or dark orbs, for instance, you still hit 7 combos, you only have 43.75% damage reduction. That's not very much, considering you have only 1 times health. So you do run the risk of just getting executed if you don't have light or dark orbs, which doesn't feel so great. If she had a flat health multiplier and a bit less damage reduction, it could have been a bit more workable if the damage reduction triggered from 7 combos, which one of them does. So she still can work as a leader, but at the same time, there is more risk involved. And one thing that I've been noticed is that with Halloween Cotton as a leader, you may find yourself with less orb movement time because, well, she doesn't give you any movement time, and the subs you run may or may not help you with that. And you have to make many combos to truly shine and function at her optimal level. Next is Halloween Sonia Grant, and she went from basically 0 to hero with this update. Like, I had a Halloween Sonia Grant. I've rolled Halloween cards by rolling in seasonal Super Godfest, not in actual Halloween events. And I got a Halloween Sonia Grant, and I was like, cool, you're going to sit in my monster box and I'm going to look at you. I didn't touch her for like a couple of years, and now I'm like, wow, I could use her. Not in this form, but in her brand new reincarnated evolution form. So in this new form, she has 8 latent slots, so more killer damage, with 777 combo and a god killer, with wonderfully high weighted stats, with a high attack stat. This is much higher than Halloween Cotton's. And she also has a skill charge and a single TPA. And that skill charge is important because her active skill was also upgraded. It's a 12-turn cooldown, which could be potentially 6 with skill charge. That's a fast charging active with 2 turn, and then for 2 turns you get 2 times orb movement time and 2 times attack for dragon types, and change the board to a full rainbow board, so 5 colors plus heal. That's quite a powerful active skill as a whole, and with skill charge you can access it much more regularly, but at the same time you can also inherit something on top of it and benefit from the skill charge and use it then. This gets me quite excited because this is going to be a solid and reliable rainbow leader once we look at this leader's skill, because it provides you with dual leaders 4 times health and 441 times attack. So with one leader, 2 times health, 21 times attack. And all you have to do is match 4 or more colors, or elements, I should say. So that could be 3 colors plus hearts or 4 colors. You will always fully activate your leader skill. It's almost impossible not to unless the board has been heavily populated with jammers, poison orbs, or bombs, etc. Activation is easy. And you also get +2 combos. And you have the restriction of dragon and devil types. So there's a bit of problem there. And At the same time, if you feel like dual Sonia Grand is not going to be the best for you, don't like the +4 combos, you want a bit of other zest, so to speak, because you don't have any RCV multiplier, you don't have any damage reduction. If you pair with someone like Valentine's Ideal, you get more bulk, you get some damage reduction, you get some RCV. You are restricted to dragon types, and you do lose the Skyfall aspect, but you still have the +2 combo from each leader, so you are going to be hitting 10 combos every time, I feel, without much issue, because even if you make 6 combos, you're going to go up to 10. It's quite magical, I'd say, as a whole. So combo count won't be an issue. You get the damage reduction, you get the RCV, which will give you a bit more survivability as a whole. Conversely, if you pair with someone like Alj, you can get more damage reduction, less health, and auto follow-up attack. But you have to match an L, but the plus combos from Sonia Grand should kind of compensate for that. So you have options for who you can pair with, which is exciting because if you have like Alj or Valentine's Ideal, you could pair with Halloween Sonia Grand to see if you like that playstyle more or less. It gives you another type of active skill to weave into your team, so to speak. And remember, like, this is a high multiplier that is easy to activate. And if you are a newer player, this is going to be quite an easy leader for you to use as a whole. But at the same time, like, one drawback is with Dragon and Devil typing, you can't use something like A10. But to compensate, Astalos is not a bad option. Astalos is from Monster Hunter, and they have many TPAs and a couple of 7 combos. And with that, they are able to actually achieve quite high amounts of personal damage. You can throw on a Zerod Core Weapon Assist, more TPAs. The damage output is actually quite high. It's not as high as A10 against multi-type spawns, but against monotype spawns, Astalos is much more powerful. So I've seen players use Astalos with, like, say, a VDP latent, and then their VDP killing solution. They can just TPA with light and do massive amounts of damage and pierce through. So something to kind of keep in the back of your mind. Another thing is, if you are using just double Halloween Sonia Grand, you are going to need a healing solution, and Mel is possibly going to be one of your best ones because it's covering blue and water, water and fire, which may be difficult colors to achieve, and is also giving you that RCV bonus, which you do need. So as a whole, I feel like Halloween Sonia Grand is a powerful rainbow leader, and I look forward to seeing what she can actually do. Next is Halloween Durga. And Halloween Durga is also a strong rainbow leader, but not quite at the same level as Halloween Sonia Grand. For her awakening, she has double 7 combo God Killer, and her super awakenings can either give her another 7 combo, a super blind resist, or a God Killer. So strong super awakening options as a whole, and what you will choose will depend on the other types of cards you're running on your team. For her active skill, she gives you 5 turns of recovering 30% of your maximum health, and then unlock all orbs and change all orbs to fire, water, wood, light, dark, and heal orbs. So this auto heal aspect, with 2 Durgas, you're almost like a Kuro Yuri loop, but you have a much more offensive body, so to speak. Kuro Yuri just gives you a bit of, like, it just is a body that exists. It's not that great of awakenings. You like the active skill. Durga gives you a much better body for the awakenings and weighted stats as well at the same time. So there's an advantage there, but you do get a bit less of an auto heal, but pros and cons overall. But at the same time, this active skill has synergy with her own leader skill. Durga's leader skill gives you unconditional 2.25 times health for dark attribute cards, which is great. And then you have a reasonable 289 times attack multiplier. It's reasonably strong, not as high as other things, but pretty good still. And then you get damage reduction when you are above 50% health. So this is kind of like Gillian, if you remember what he does. Gillian and Durga will give you damage reduction as long as you are above half health. And it will check your health value every time that you get hit. So multi-hit, say you're at full health, you get multi-hit a couple times, each hit might get reduced. But let's say it's a 3 multi-hit, and the first 2 hits bring you down to 40% health. Well, that last hit will do the full damage, which in turn might kill you potentially. The point of the matter is, you want to make sure you are above half health when a monster attacks. And this is done in 2 ways. With this active skill, this auto heal aspect will heal you before the monster hits. So if you are below half health, the auto heal brings you up, you tank that monster hit. That is good. Conversely, if you just match hard orbs and get above half health, you tank the hit, life is good once again. So it's kind of an interesting playstyle. Like, the health value is not that high. It's only 2.25 times health. It's not as much health to play around with, but the damage reduction aspect is quite high. So if you can stack lots of health on your team and be able to heal up all the time, you can basically grind your way through content to a certain extent, which is pleasant overall. At the same time, you also have auto follow-up attack damage when you match 3 colors plus heal or 4 colors. So the same activation as Sonia Gran. So you could pair the two of them together. So you get damage reduction that Sonia Gran was missing, and you get the auto follow attack, which again, Sonia Gran is missing. You could just pair Sonia Gran with Algae, but again, there are various options and flexibility to be had. So as a whole, I think Durga is quite a strong leader, not at the same capacity as Sonia Gran, and you have to be mindful of keeping above half health along with her lower health pool. That is going to be the most problematic thing, and multi-hits tend to be the most dangerous as a whole. You also get an orb skin, so you could technically directly purchase it. Halloween Weld gives you triple Devil Killer, a bunch of rows, and either a 4th Devil Killer or 2 more skill boosts. So you can have 5 skill boosts potentially. I don't know why it says 2 to 4, math is hard. Or you could have 4 Devil Killers. So with 4 Devil Killers, you have 81 times personal damage against devils. Things are going to die, and that is wonderful as a whole, but at the same time, I feel like Halloween Weld is going to be a situational card to use overall. And this is because their active skill is a bit difficult to work around because it's a 20-turn cooldown, and it gives you a mono board of water orbs. Just a mono board of water. That's a little problematic because any team that needs to use combos will obviously not benefit from it. Weld themselves as a leader does benefit because they gain bonus combos and damage reduction when matching many water orbs. But at the same time, this type of team is going to be orb hungry. You don't have much durability without lots of water orbs. It's going to be difficult to use outside of, say, farming purposes. So I feel like Weld is going to be more so pushed into a farming role. Not to say that's a bad thing, but it's just going to have less applications as a whole. But at the same time, if you do enjoy, like, say, co-op farming with yourself, Weld leaders might be something interesting. It's kind of like a Beach Varroa that also gives a full swipeable board with a massive boost, which is just complete overkill, I think, at that point in time. Halloween Alpha and Omega are a powerful skill boost solution that also provides healing and damage output. They have 4 skill boosts with their Super Awakenings. They have 4 enhanced heal orbs, and they also have double 7 combo with a VDP. So they can deal damage, they can help you heal back up because they have reasonably high RCV, not as high as Amaterasu, but you do get an extra enhanced hard orb to compensate. You also have reasonable damage output, reasonable attack set, reasonable offensive awakenings, and this active skill gives you a tricolor board with a gemstone style burst that scales off of 7 combos, which should be common. So you're going to have 1 turn of excessively high damage, I feel, as a whole. That is definitely pleasant, but it's only 1 turn of burst, which is a bit problematic because at this point in time, the hardest spawns have super resolve or just so much effective health you can't kill them in 1 turn. And with only 1 turn of burst, that does become a little problematic. You want to have like 2, ideally 3 turns of burst to really push yourself over the edge and actually ensure like the Manoas or even like the Yomi Dragon and Zeus Dragon in Altarina 4 do perish because they have super resolve. So that is a bit of a drawback, but at the same time, still a nice aspect as a whole. Like, you're never going to... A board changer with a burst is never going to be a bad thing to have on your team, and it does provide hard orbs so you can heal at the same time. So there's quite a bit of value built into Alpha and Omega as a sub. So if I were to roll them, I would be quite happy, but Halloween Bastet, I feel like, takes the cake for the most exciting 7-star, because Halloween Bastet now can have triple 7 combo or double 7 combo with a VDP, so strong offensive spread there. They give you lots of orb movement time, which is helpful for some teams, but it's their active skill that is quite spicy. It's a 3-turn base cooldown that gives you 1 turn of bonus orb movement time and bonus RCV. And that means you can overwrite any of those debuffs, which are incredibly common, especially if you're playing through something like Altarina 4. And in addition to that, because Bastet has such a low base cooldown, you can inherit something over top of her to help your other cards transform. What I mean by this is, say you inherit something like Amatsu's Loot. It gives you 1 skill boost, so Bastet's now a 3 skill boost card, but Amatsu's skill has a 13-turn cooldown. With Bastet, that's 16. If you use that inherited active skill, you give 2 turns of haste. Bastet now just became a 5 effective skill boost card, assuming your team was able to hit 16 beforehand, which can in turn open up other inheritance options or other sub options for your transforming teams, and that in itself is a tremendously powerful aspect. You could always replace Amatsu's Loot with something else that gives like delays or other things that give haste. There are multiple different ways to layer in extra effective skill boost. So the combination of that with a high utility active skill makes her quite a desirable sub, but at the same time, she's actually a strong leader. She has a modest amount of health, a big attack multiplier for gods and devil types, and damage reduction when you match 7 or more combos, which should always be possible. So these are quite respectable multipliers. Like, they don't give bonus combos or auto follow attack or any jazz along those lines, but you still should be able to clear plenty of content with this type of leader skill. And because Bastets can inherit an active skill of their choice, you could have a bit more flexibility in that regards as well. They also have an orb skin, which means you can directly purchase them. Halloween Zerog, I feel, has lost so much of his luster compared to when they were first released, because we now have many more cards with the Dungeon Boost Awakening, and we have many more counters to spinners, because their active skill could produce a full board block along with spawning a row at the top and bottom. So, with more ways to counter spinners, Zerog Core is not as magical. With more things with Dungeon Boost, in fact, Greed has 3 Dungeon Boosts when you evolve them. Like, Zerog Core is not... Halloween Zerog is not as exciting there. And their leader skill, while it does boast a high 2,500 times multiplier, is really just an inferior Amun, because Amun needs 7 combos as well, but Amun needs to leave 3 or less orbs. If you are going to be playing this type of leader, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you probably can activate Amun just as consistently as well. So Amun gives you 10,000 times attack multiplier. Halloween Zerog is 2,500. So you are just sacrificing 4 times less damage. It's just not going to be worth it as a whole. So in summary, I feel like Halloween Zerog just doesn't really accomplish much that other cards cannot at this point in time, especially something farmable like Amun. Halloween Sonia does give a super blind resist. She does have rows, but the problem is, like, there's nowhere truly great to take advantage of it. There's not enough skill boosts, I feel, and hitting, I guess you could say it's 4 effective skill boosts if you have 14 because of the 2 turns of haste, but I feel like it's just an awkward card to work around with because she's not offering that much outside of super blind, but you could use something like Super Reincarnate Pandora, which has a shorter cooldown with more effective skill boosts, and it might just be a more efficient card to use as a whole. But at the same time, this active skill did have merits in the past for ranking dungeons, because at one point in time, ranking dungeons allowed you to use multiple bicolor with haste active skills repeatedly to create a weird kind of looping system that allowed you to just bicolor and do nothing else. It was the easiest way to get high scores, but that is no longer the case. Gung-Ho has changed it, ranking dungeon landscape, so to speak, that this is not the optimal strategy. Right now, the optimal strategy is using perfect 10-10 boards, so something like Magic Lin or Pride from Sin Dragon, to give you a 10 combo board, 15-50 boards, so you get 10 combos quite easily, or like double VDP, whatever pattern you want to match, it's very easy to do. And you use that in conjunction with a forced 4-color Skyfall active. So you get the full 10 combos, the whole board's clear, 30 new orbs fall down of 4 elements, and they oftentimes give you many Skyfalls. That is the current meta right now for ranking dungeons, so Halloween Sonia doesn't quite fit in there anymore. She still can definitely be used, but I feel like as a whole, it's not going to be as powerful as a sub compared to other things you could have out there. Halloween Rule in their base form is nowhere near as exciting because their Pixel and new evolution is much more powerful as a whole. Like, they do have some TPA damage, they do have 7 combos, they have some skill boost, but it's not enough to justify making over this Pixel form, because the Pixel form has super poison resist. They have 10 combo and 4 TPAs and the same number of skill boosts potentially. So much more value. They could even take cloud resist to get even more value out of themselves. But the main idea with Halloween Pixel Rule is that she has a new active skill. And this active skill, like I mentioned just beforehand, gives you a perfect board of 15 wood and 15 dark orbs. So for ranking dungeons, woof, easy to solve, fast to solve, 10 combos every single time. But even if you don't use them for ranking dungeons, if we do have cards that can take advantage of the 10 combo with TPAs, she can be a tremendous damage dealing card considering her base attack is high. So she has 2 values, like ranking dungeon prowess and possible damage solution if we can find teams that can hit 10 combos and want TPA. So basically mono dark teams that don't rely on rows or blobbing that have many combos could potentially use Halloween Rule, or if failing that, use them as a ranking dungeon solution. Halloween Nene, I feel, is just an average mono dark sub. They don't bring anything truly spectacular. They don't have resist. They only have 2 skill boosts. They have an active skill that gives you a tricolor board with hearts and +2 combos. It's nothing special. I feel like she is just going to be a replaceable card. As soon as you get something better, she is going to be swapped out. So if you're a brand new player and you happen to roll Halloween Nene, might get some value in the interim, but eventually she will be surpassed because she's not really accomplishing that much that other cards can't do. And now we come to the 6 and 5-star cards, which is going to be like depressing overall. Like, these are the scariest parts of this reg machine, and yeah, that's saying quite a bit. So for Halloween Karen, she has many orb enhances, but the thing is, we could use something like Esh Shamali, and we don't really use Esh Shamali that often, who has more orb enhances and better base stats and a better active skill as well. So if we don't use Esh Shamali, we're not going to use an inferior Karen, so to speak, because these weighted stats are so low. Think about it. You have to get to level 110 to get 982 weighted stats. Like, that is absurdly low. That's a tremendous amount of resources you've spent into a card that is not going to be that good. And that's going to be the case for the vast majority of these bottom rarity cards. They require so much investment to become bad. They went from terrible to bad. It's just not a good outlook. Halloween Roswell, I feel like a similar case can be made. Like, the TPA damage is low. There's not much TPAs. There's not that many TPAs. The attack multiplier is low. She just makes hard orbs. I don't feel like it's going to have that much value. Those recover binds, again, would you really want to use her for the future? Like, there's a buff that's going to make that awakening more valuable, I think. But at the same time, would you want to run this sub? Probably not. Halloween Layla gives a little bit more zest, at least. She does generate an instantaneous dark row at the very bottom. So for farming content with, like, say, Shivnia or, like, Reincarnate Lu Bu, you want to have lots of dark orbs. So a 5-turn cooldown that can make dark orbs is powerful, and if you use it in conjunction with something like Fortress Dragon, you can give her 3 haste to use it again like 2 turns later. Quite helpful as a whole. But at the same time, if you have Chuan and you've skilled up Chuan I feel is going to be a superior choice because she's a 4 instead of a 5-turn cooldown, and she gives many more dark rows for more passive damage. So Layla is not a bad thing. It's definitely better for players who don't have a Chuan, though. Halloween Vampire provides a modest and reasonable amount of damage output against God-type spawns, but you have to hit 7 combos and you have to hit a TPA as well at the same time. So it takes a bit more effort compared to like something like, say, number 6, who has an infinitely higher attack stat. This is a terribly low attack stat, which is going to mar their damage output. So, like, if you have no other God-killing option, Halloween Vampire might be an okay thing. But if you have things like number 6 and other things with just better attack stats, they're going to be much more reliable at killing gods overall. Halloween Alarane does have the potential to give you bind and awoken bind clearing for 10 turns and 1 turn of haste. But the issue is that active skill, I feel like, becomes quite dead many times. The reason being is I like to have many utility actives tied to an orb changer, because not playing through a dungeon, you don't always get the same spawns. You may not encounter the spawn with the bind or awoken bind, which means that if that's the case, Halloween Alaron will have basically no value in terms of her active skill output. It's going to be a problematic. But by comparison, if she did give bind and awoken bind clearing with an orb changer, well, it's not the end of the world. You still get orbs out of it. You still can kill a fool, or you can do things with it. So I feel like that's the biggest drawback there. And at the same time, 943 weighted stats at level 110, like her, she does have a 10 combo, but she has like one of the lowest attack stats I've seen. So it's not even going to be pumping up that much damage. She's not providing that much as a whole. I feel like if you were a brand new player and had very few options, again, this can work. But at the same time, that can be said for many of these cards at the bottom. Halloween Chiomi has modest dragon killing potential, but kind of like Vampire, low base attack. It's going to be hindering how much she can actually do. Again, I don't think it's that magical. Halloween Parvati, similar boat, low base attack, but she has 4 different killers. If they don't line up, you have terrible damage output. It's going to be hard to line them up. It's unreliable. The 60% poison resist, you're not going to be wanting to use this card as a sub in really any way, shape, or form, sadly. Halloween Misery, a lot of people love Halloween Misery for the meme potential she brings because she has so many auto heal awakenings. She also has the poison blessing, which means poison orbs can skyfall down, and she also has an active skill that generates a row of poison orbs. Matching poison orbs at one point in time was stylish with Bakura, but that only worked because Yugi had such a high base multiplier as well as immunity to poison damage. So Bakura, with many poison blessing awakenings, had high personal damage on Yugi teams. But Misery can't be used in any way, shape, or form like that. She won't have high damage output because there's only one poison surge, which is akin to having like 1-7 combo. Not enough damage output. The auto heals are not going to do anything significant. It's just like Mimi at this point in time. It's kind of cool. It's unique. It's not something that's good at this point in time. Halloween Undine, terribly low weighted stats, no reason to run them as a sub. They have not very high RCV, so those 3 enhanced heart orbs are not even going to provide that much healing solution. Just a weak card overall. And then finally we come to Halloween Mulan, who does give 3 skill boosts, double devil killer, and she does provide, I'd say, a little bit more value overall compared to the other killer solutions. Maybe I'm just giving her a bit more value potentially, but I feel like as a devil killing solution, she's a little bit better compared to like the other ones here, just because she gives a bit more skill boost. Maybe I'm just off the mark here. I feel like I wouldn't be that excited to get them either. So, do I plan to roll and dream rolls? So, I do not plan on rolling within the Howling Rare machine because, as mentioned already, 75% of the rolls are 5 or 6 stars, which have no true value for a modestly deep monster box. But we can still dream and have fun, and for my dream 9-star card, I would pick Tsuo, even though I feel like it's weaker than Halloween Madu, but the reason being is because he's newer, and Gung-Ho might buff them significantly in the future because I feel like they could be possibly underperforming, or that active skill ends up being the most magical thing in the world and counters the new mechanic that we haven't seen yet. I'm just kind of like hedging myself against the future. This is like dreaming anyways. For 8-star cards, I actually have all the 8-star cards from a previous seasonal Godfest, so I'm just going to say default Sonia Grand because she's the best, because it just looks better in the picture at the bottom. For 7-star cards, Halloween Bastet is something I've wanted for a long time, and she's in a tremendously strong place right now. She gives great utility, a low cooldown, can inherit something valuable on top, strong card overall. For 6 and 5-star cards, none of them really truly matter. None of them are going to improve my monster box as a whole, but maybe I'll take a Misery, because I could say Misery loves company instead. So, in conclusion, the Halloween Rare Machine is a terrible place to spend your magic stones in. It does not offer much value whatsoever at the bottom rarities, which will comprise 75% of the rolling pool. If you are truly gung-ho on any one particular card, I strongly recommend you utilize the Monster Exchange system because it's a much more efficient way to spend your resources. With that being said, let me know what you think about these cards down in the comments below, and if you did end up rolling, what did you roll, or if you Monster Exchange, what did you trade for? Either way, hopefully you all have a fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.